Yeah, but I like the dressing up part.
Yeah.
I actually miss the ties.
Yeah, that's just it. You feel good in it, right?
Yeah, it's like your little creative statement.
Yeah.
You know. So let me ask you, how long were you in Texas for?
I was there 2018 to the start of this year. So what's that, 5 years?
5 years?
5 years.
Yeah. By the way, you have the strangest Texas accent.
Yeah.
Well, what did you think as an Australian living in Texas? What was it like?
Incredibly comfortable.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it was...
It could have been the heat, because the heat's not incredibly comfortable.
No. I mean, it's easy to talk it down because it wasn't pretty. Like when you're coming from Sydney, living on a 15th floor apartment overlooking the harbour,
Yeah.
to flat. Yeah, there was no mountains,
Yeah.
no ocean.
Were you Austin? Or?
I was in Dallas.
Dallas, okay.
Yeah, so I didn't have the river or any of
Yeah.
the natural beauty stuff. But roads are good, traffic amazing, price is amazing. I mean, I landed into fuel that cost me $1.49
Yeah.
a gallon, right? I mean, it was a pleasant lifestyle.
Yeah, you liked it, huh?
And the culture. I mean, everyone was just so friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just welcoming and, oh my God, you're alone at Thanksgiving. Please come over.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, but no, it was really, really friendly because I was moving there by myself.
Yeah.
And it was just nice to have welcoming culture. Whereas San Francisco, not so much. You know?
Yeah, I've noticed that.
When I moved here in 2010, I think it was.
And so everyone's moving to Texas, and you decided to be the one person to go
Well,
back
I
to
got told to
California.
move back. I didn't choose to come back. Well, ultimately, it's my choice, I suppose. But no, that was a condition of the role.
I'm sure California was happy to get one person back from Texas, right?
Exactly. But yeah, it was funny though because I moved here and everyone was saying, "Have you found a house to buy?" I went, "No."
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want a $12,000 a month mortgage.
Yeah. So you obviously moved back for Intel.
Oh, are we in the interview now?
Yeah.
Oh shit!
We're rolling.
No, I didn't. Here I am rambling. I'm sorry.
Welcome to On the Road.
Oh no, that's fine. No, yeah, we can talk about that again. I'm sorry.
No, so let me ask you. There's a lot I want to get into today in terms.
Sorry about that, mate.
Hey, this is perfect.
Okay, cool.
But no, I want to hear about your personal journey.
Okay.
Because you're the CMO of a Fortune 500 company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, wow. How'd you get here though?
Really interesting story. I mean, yeah, my background probably enabled them to go, all right, he's got the background to do it. So I was a developer for 7 years, did pre-sales, education, and then product marketing, field marketing. So I had these range of experiences and opportunities in my career that just rounded out me as a professional. I think, though, really, it was a lot of luck in that one of the team members that I used to work with in Intel, in 2000 actually, she was reporting to me, but it also happens to be the chief of staff for the chief customer officer now. And she was the one to say, hey, you should talk to Brett.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it wasn't an executive search firm that found me. It was just on the recommendation of one of the Intellers that was still here.
Your network, huh?
Yeah,
totally.
Totally. So I always felt I was a little bit of an outsider because of that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't found by the firm. I was just brought in by one of the employees.
How long have you been in the States?
So this is my second time round. So
Okay.
I was here 2010 through 2015.
Okay.
Went home for 3 years because I was a bit homesick.
Yeah.
And then when I was with McAfee, their marketing department was based in Texas. So that's when I came back. So that was in 2018.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked, just thinking about the network you've built, especially within B2B tech. I mean, it's a pretty strong community, I feel like.
It is. And I think the range of companies that I've worked for meant that I was working with some of the same people, but also very different subsegments of IT.
Yeah.
So McAfee was great because that introduced me to the world of cyber and cybersecurity. But when I was working for Intel, that's, the big ISVs at the time, the SAPs, the Oracles, the Red Hats, and obviously the whole hardware piece as well.
Yeah.
So again, I think I've just been very lucky through the roles that I got exposure to IT en masse.
Yeah.
And then had the opportunity to get really deep into whatever segment or subsegment that my role covered.
Yeah, I mean, because I think I've been doing this 18 years now, selling to B2B marketers.
Right.
And, just over that time, just seeing different relationships I've formed. And, sometimes they stay, I've worked with people at Intel. I've been here for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Other times they move around. But maintaining that relationship and just growing trust and building something together over the years.
It's critical.
Yeah.
It's critical. I mean, I think if I get asked, like, what's one piece of advice to give people in their career, never burn bridges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because who knows, the next opportunity could be one of those connections.
And it's interesting because I think I'm very fortunate to be in an industry where I don't come across those types of people often.
Okay.
I mean, I think by and large, a lot of the people I work with, in the B2B marketing side, they're kind, genuine people.
It's true.
But every now and then you do run across someone and you're like, what are you doing? Like, everybody knows everybody. Like,
Yeah. I don't think anyone's deliberately malicious or, negative or whatever. But there's definitely personality types.
Yeah,
but I find that's actually cross-discipline. You got sales, you got marketing. And I find in the marketing world anyway, we're a very specific type of personality generally. Yeah.
So let me ask you, what was most attractive about the role at Intel? What excited you most about coming here?
I think most was the current environment in which Intel operates. I always like a role which is embedded in a company trying to break into a new market, or trying to reassert itself into a changing market. And I find that really exciting. And I think the memory of when I worked at Intel in the early 2000s, where they were entering and trying to create the Wi-Fi enabled device market, when everyone was tethered to a desktop and everyone was fighting Wi-Fi because it was insecure or unsecured. That was the challenge back then, and now it's a challenge of a different kind, i.e., into the AI space, where there's a clear leader. In the Wi-Fi world, there was none, right? So we were the first mover, but someone else has taken that mantle with AI, and so it's a different muscle for Intel to flex. So I really love complex problems to solve, bit of a problem solver at heart, and just having the opportunity to step into a role like this, working with an amazing team to go try and fix that problem. Yeah,
it's fascinating.
It really is. But that to me would be the main reason why I just was thrilled to get it.
Yeah, well, it's a good opportunity to go a little bit deeper about who you are. So I have a couple lightning round questions for you.
No.
I don't think I didn't brief you on this part. So
No, you did not.
Yeah, so this is just the to get to know Brett section. Couple quick questions for you.
Sure.
Favorite sport to watch?
Tennis.
Tennis. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Favorite-
Not cricket.
Favorite? I would have guessed rugby because yes.
Rugby? No, but I grew up in the south of Australia, which is all about AFL.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Sydney, Brisbane, that's all about rugby.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but it's around Australian rules football, which I love watching, but tennis is probably better.
Tennis. All right.
Yeah.
Favorite sport to play?
None really.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not a sporty type.
Yeah.
No.
Growing up?
Growing up, no. I mean, you're forced to,
Yeah.
but I was more the person who liked to be, in the orchestra or up on stage or something like that.
I should ask you
I was more on the arty side.
What instrument then?
Piano.
Piano. Okay.
Piano and percussion.
All right.
Yeah.
My kids are in piano lessons.
Oh yeah,
I like
that's
it.
good.
All right. Best way to spend any weekend? Like, how would you spend your typical weekend?
That's a tough one because it's varied. I think I'm most happy when I am watching a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. If you could have a lifetime supply of free food from any quick restaurant chain, what would it be?
McDonald's.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Breakfast or lunch or dinner? Or all of it?
Either or any.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had the quick breakfast at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And look, quarter pounder meal.
Yeah.
Medium Coke.
Yeah. I'm an egg McMuffin kind of guy.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
All right. All right. So that was the get to know
They're good
Brett
questions.
section.
I like those
All right.
ones.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to get you to play something on piano then sometimes.
I know. You'll be asking me to dip into skills not quite, recently used.
That's on the road part 2.
Okay.
All right. So I want to know a little bit about your vision as CMO. So obviously, Pat Gelsinger is transforming Intel. How do you align your vision with that transformation given all the market forces and noise out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just two ways to answer the question, I think, and I promise I won't be long-winded. But
Yeah, I know.
if I break it down into what is the purpose and skills needed for a fully functioning marketing organization just to be the best at what it does, yeah, and has Intel got that already in hand, right? So to me, that was one part of the question. The second part was, one part of the answer. The second one is just really, all right, given everything you said, if you've got the best marketing engine in play, are we executing in a way to grab the opportunity or drive a different perception in market as to what people may have of the company? And it was interesting, when I step in, if I look at the part one piece, it was a team that was highly skilled, but their skills were developed in motions that were, I believe, not needed, right, or shouldn't be the way to move forward with. And I use this example a fair bit, but if you have a company that made drones the main message to market, a decade ago, because that's where the marketers felt that's where the people's interest was.
Yeah.
So it's all about drones. They spend millions putting drones up in the sky at major sporting events. Look, Intel's got the drones. And at the time, it was a great burst of perception being projected, but it really trained an internal marketing engine to be consumer oriented. Like, what is drones to an enterprise? Not much. Also, I think there was a disconnect from the core, right? I mean, the core of the business is clients, whether it's a laptop, PC, consumer, commercial, and of course the data center. And when you shift everything into the consumer model, you start to lose the skills to go really promote our value back into the business. And that was, I think, sorely missing when I came back into the company, just looking around and seeing, are we even fit to go where truly the client growth is, truly where all of the billions of dollars are being spent? It's in data centers running AI workloads at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the job really was build a high performing, well integrated team, really starting to develop those go-to-market motions that play into the opportunity as it is today versus all the skills and practices that we developed that suited us in the past.
So looking forward, Intel as a marketing organization, some folks have worked there for decades.
True.
Yeah. So how do you inspire them to take that new approach, to develop those new skills or look at things in a new, innovative way as you see fit to tackle this challenge ahead of you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there are two things that really stopped people expressing themselves, right? Like, yes, I can inspire them with a vision, but in the day-to-day of what they do, are the processes not there to allow them to have a voice or even exercise a new way of doing things? And I was just blissfully unaware of that, like the way that we distributed budgets, right, on historic patterns meant that we weren't carving out dollars to go do new types of motions. So the people were definitely there. I want to do this. Brett, thank you for wanting to go do this, but we can't because there's no money, right? So I think for me, yes, the traditional inspire with the vision, like this is our purpose, we're here to drive growth for the company, have a growth mindset, not only for yourself, but also for the company. But then I quickly realized, and still going through, what are the processes we need to change? What are the systems we need to bring in? Because again, in modern marketing motions, we were just missing core infrastructure pieces that competitors have and are using, and we just did not have because they hadn't been prioritized as an investment.
So you're really having to build back from the ground back up within an organization that's been around forever.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I get the notes, like I have my all hands, I have regular opportunities to talk to the whole team about this is where we're going. And you say, all right, we're going to go do some really big bets on our own internal infrastructures as much as what we place out in market. And the little thumbs up, the little love hearts come up because they're wanting us to go do that. It's just that if you operate as you always did, then the same thing is going to come out, of the team and of the company.
So I want to ask a little bit about brand. I mean, obviously, Intel, one of the most well-known brands in the world. My wife, who knows nothing about tech, obviously knows Intel. I think everybody does.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge is tech's moving so fast these days. So, how do you maintain brand relevancy, with the industry moving so fast and maybe even some other competitors just dominating the headlines?
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, that is part of the huge opportunity that I saw.
Yeah.
And a very complex puzzle to solve.
Well, you mentioned you like solving problems, right?
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
Exactly. So, Intel as a brand that everyone knows and loves was really formed in the 90s during the PC era, where the CPU was arguably the most important thing, right? It's like the BMW car, it's the engine size that people were looking for, right? And it was a very technical buyer. I remember I bought my first PC, it was $6,000.
Wow.
Right, in Australia.
Yeah.
But if you're having to take out a personal loan to go buy the PC, you want to know what is in it. And at the time it was an 80286, and I was very happy with that. I think wind the clock forward, the buyer has completely changed, right? So for us to feel, yes, we're an ingredient brand, right? There's very few people out of the total revenue that are buying an Intel product, right, off the shelf. The CPU, like some gamers will go do that. They'll go buy the CPU and then their motherboard, and they'll go build their perfect device, and we love that segment. But the majority of people buying laptops have a very specific use they have in mind, and they'll go buy a device that suits. So if we're trying to project the value that we bring into the buyer's mind, you really have to start to lose the ego a little bit and start to meet them and start to explain what is new in this world that you should be looking for. I think we lent too heavily into Intel Inside as the market fundamentally changed, and the belief that throwing a badge on a device will force people to buy our way. That we are having to start thinking about, all right, it's not necessarily always about the speeds and feeds and the gen-on-gen performance improvement that we deliver. It's on things as simple as it's a 27-hour battery life. That excites people.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because, yes, part of that is delivered through the CPU in the device because it's not power hungry, but it's the partnership with your OEMs that help build that device with us that could deliver that outcome for someone. So you're really having to look at the experiences that they have that are not just raw speeds, feeds capability, which is what Intel was really, really well known for in the past. And that's hard. I think our internal teams are very good at the raw benchmark. Right? When we launch a new product, we've got all the benchmarks. And I'm encouraged now that they go, all right, it's not just the performance, but it's the graphics performance within Fortnite, right? Does our competitor Fortnite performance, compare to ours?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when Qualcomm released theirs and started to have really great battery life, we had to come out with a response. We've beaten your battery life, and people can run Fortnite. They can't run it on yours, sort of thing. So that to me is the goal. You start to look at what the consumer is really trying to do, and marrying the value into that.
Yeah, that's basic for us on the sales side, right? In that, if you have a sales rep going in and just selling feature functionality, as opposed to, what is the challenge the solution is looking to solve?
That's it,
right?
exactly. And I found when I came in, particularly in the commercial space, I talked about it before, and it's just a reflection of where Intel was in its journey. When I was there in 2000, because I was in the Australia-New Zealand business team. And at the time, we were trying to get Sun Solaris out of the data center and moving your workloads onto Linux, X Series from IBM or a ProLiant from Compaq, Blade servers. And we had to pull in all of this research and benchmarking and standard operating architectures to run Oracle on Linux, right? And compare Oracle on Sun to Oracle on Linux, because that was the workload running in the data center at the time. So for us not to rebuild that muscle, right? If you look at a traditional, like a data center of today, what are they running? Like, why is the Intel product better than the competitor? Because it's not Sun Solaris we're trying to beat, it's the AMD solution, or it's the cloud service provider solution that they'll run these workloads on. So it's a real reinsertion of us to better understand what we're tuning, optimizing, engineering for, and reflecting the whole story as opposed to just the CPU story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big shift for us internally.
I want to ask you. You mentioned building this growth engine within the marketing organization. How do you prioritize maintaining brand relevancy versus I got to move inventory? Where do you focus, and how do you balance the two?
Yeah, I mean, it's again an interesting one to unpack. Certainly, what I've goaled the team is a mindset shift that we're not here about impressions. I mean, the traditional marketing metrics, which is fine, but I need to start seeing ultimately what is the consumption outcome of this. I mean, Intel's a very interesting beast. We don't, like I said, there's very few things we sell direct, except to our biggest partners, the Dells, the HPs, Lenovo's, etc. So our job in marketing is to make sure that, yes, they're committing to us to embed our product into their device. We will help you pull that device off your shelf. So high inventory at our partners is not a good look. So what are we doing in marketing to pull that inventory off the shelf and into people's hands and data centers? That was a new message to be heard by the team, to be revenue oriented, to be ASP oriented, right? It was also, in some cases, a new ask on our partners. I don't necessarily just want to see the receipt of you placing an ad to pull down the MDF fund. How many units shipped because of that campaign that we co-funded and ran together? And it's interesting. It's a new ask for us in some instances, but our partners have actually been really receptive, and I'm lucky that the whole marketing world is generally moving to what is the revenue produced this quarter. And that positive discussions that we're having out with our partner landscape at the moment, I think is starting to get people re-energized about, wow, what I do actually contributes something to the business. Because when I landed here, a lot of presentations, we did a 1,000 person event, and we surveyed people coming into the keynote, and then we surveyed people going out of the keynote, and there was a 5% uplift in preference. And I go, okay, if that's the case, then we should have a 5% uplift in millions of units sold, all right, or market segment shift. Has that happened? All right. So yeah, it is a big ask, but I think it's the right one. And I've got a really hungry team to go do it. It's just, again, empowering them to, with the systems, the processes, et cetera, to be able to do that properly.
You mentioned like perception. I want to ask a little bit about perception. What is the one thing that you think Intel customers and partners, have wrong about Intel's future, or something that where you're going that you got to change perception on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a couple of things. I think one, if you get to the technical, there's certainly a lot of noise around x86 as an architecture and the ARM or reduced instruction set architectures. What's the future of these things? And that there is life in x86. Like, don't throw it out just because it's been around for decades. So I think that's one thing that we just need to continue to show as a company, innovation on an architecture that's compatible with everything that's there. And people not having to recompile or redeploy and test on a competing architecture just because it delivers a better power envelope or a better battery life, etc. And I applaud what we're getting off the production line now as Intel, where we are very competitive on those two architectures. So we need to project that in market and just settle the noise, because there's naysayers on the architecture, and if that's the foundation of what we produce, we need to come in with a response with proof that it's alive and well. And the announcement that we made with AMD just last week about us working together on the architecture and making it future ready, is great stuff. I mean, I think that's a healthy thing to do. So that's one thing. Like the thing coming out of the manufacturing and off the production line has got a long life ahead of us, and will continue to deliver whatever the use case. The other one is just the relevance of Intel in a very noisy space, which is the AI space.
There's a lot of noise out there.
There is, right? And I blame our discipline. I blame marketers for fueling the noise bubble around this. I mean, the amount of times AI is in a TV ad or a radio ad or a press article, it just frustrates me, as a person, because how is a poor consumer with all of that noise meant to understand what AI means to them as a person? And certainly at the board level, when they start asking their IT department, oh, we need AI, why? What are we going to do with it? How do we make it happen? I think that is where we in marketing, and particularly marketing at Intel, can start to be very specific. So when we came out last year and said, look, we've got an AI-enabled PC, and we've got an AI-enabled data center, and we've got partners in the public and private cloud arenas that now have Intel architecture that can run AI workloads. So we have AI everywhere. Mm-hmm. But what does that mean, right? So you need to insert yourself into a very noisy dialogue and say, look, we've got AI everywhere. So that was our umbrella brand campaign. And, Pat, the CEO, would be up on stage and have that ability to say, if you want to run it on a PC, on the edge of your network, or you run it in the cloud or your data center, Intel has a solution in that space. But I think the marketing, maybe this is because I was a database educator, I was up on stage with Oracle, showing new features. The way I felt we needed to resonate was just be very specific. All right. Are you trying to provide a chat bot as a front end to your unified enterprise data that is running on-prem? Then that's a RAG-based AI solution running in your data center on pre-trained models, sort of thing. So that's where we're starting to go with the whole AI thing. Be very, very specific. All right. There's a fantastic initiative being done in China where we're working with some ISVs around training, right, or mental health, right, providing digital mental health through AI-enabled avatars, etc., because there's just not enough professional health providers out there, people. So I think you find the use case and you project it, look, this is what it is, this is how it comes to life, and this is how it works, as opposed to just this umbrella thing. Yeah.
Well, that's a challenge for you, though, because it's almost, rather than just having an Intel marketing program campaign vision, you got to have different ones for all your different partners.
Exactly.
As an ingredient brand, right?
Exactly.
So it's a challenge to scale. It's a challenge to manage.
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
It is a big problem, especially when there's the big gorilla in the room.
Yeah.
Right. And look, I mean, credit to NVIDIA, but a lot of luck. Like me in getting this role, NVIDIA's core product line was a GPU.
Yeah.
Right, graphics for games, and that just happened to run AI workloads incredibly well. But they jumped on that architectural benefit that they had, wrapped perfect software around it, and really phenomenal job. And we are in catch-up mode, right? We weren't first mover like we were with Wi-Fi, and so if you already have this perception that they are, you never, if you didn't want to get fired, you go buy IBM. You can argue it's fairly similar around the NVIDIA argument at the moment. That's top of mind, top preference, which is a different position for Intel to be in.
Yeah.
Right? We were the undisputed leader for commodity hardware in the data center. We were the undisputed leader for a client, whether it's a consumer or an enterprise. And we're in a challenger mode. And you can't come out, I believe, into market pretending you're the behemoth.
Because I wanted to ask you, like specific to that, you're in catch-up mode. What role does the marketing team play in terms of bridging that gap while the product evolves?
Yeah, and honestly, it's being very credible and aligned to truly what the product truth as to what it can deliver. Yeah.
Realistic expectations.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, AI is in a troublesome spot as an industry anyway, right? People have spent tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on things. Are they getting anything out of it?
Yeah.
Right? There's this genuine worry, I think, in the industry that this thing is overtalked, overblown. So it really is up to us to market, again, whether it's a pharma, as in pharmaceuticals, or healthcare, or retail, or whatever. But whatever of those experiences that are truly AI enabled or enhanced, be very specific and paint those stories. And they've got the Intel hardware and expertise behind it. Versus we're AI everything, it's we're AI for this. Yeah, and that helps you. Like if you're not trying to do the big broad against a product truth that doesn't match the big promise,
yeah,
you can start doing ABM. It's cheaper than big campaigns, right? You can start doing industry motions, much cheaper to do than broad brush strokes. Yeah.
Now, obviously, I mean, you probably have an idea of where this is all going with Pat's vision.
Mm-hmm.
How is it a challenge to keep one eye in the future while navigating the current market forces and the challenges? And
Totally. I think where I'm lucky to a degree, but it's also an area that I'm not used to. My most recent history was in software.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take 5 years to get a software product out, right? And you can do rapid development. I mean, all of that great work in the software development arena just to get a product out there within 6 months, if you want to. Silicon doesn't behave that way.
A little different, right?
Yeah, it is. And that's something to get used to because you've got the future. You want to promote what is coming out, but there's the reality of things that need to come off the shelf. So that's the product truth as it was designed 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And to your point, the market is moving so quickly, but a silicon roadmap can't do the same, right? So we just have to have and design marketing messages that have hints of that future, but grounded in the reality of what we can deliver truly of value to a customer.
Well, I think, honestly, that'd be hugely appreciated by a lot of the tech buyers out there. I mean, we just put out some research recently looking at customer engagement on the B2B side. And,
right.
Man, there's just such a challenge to find credible content out there. And the number one thing is too much marketing hype in the content. And the tech buyers can read through it so quickly. So the fact that you're grounding your messaging in realistic expectations, there's a need for that.
Yeah, there is. And I think, and this is where I go, all right, we have the silicon roadmap that is fixed and has amazing products in the roadmap ahead for us. But we also have this enormous set of engineering resources that operate around the silicon. Because these days it is about the system. Like I said, it's not just the CPU, it's the chassis it sits in with the cards that are aligned with the storage that's attached, the operating system that runs on it. And we've literally got thousands of software engineers that have tuned this AI model for retail on our hardware. So it's not just a story we can tell, it's a proven technical piece of engineering that we've done. Yeah. And that's what I've challenged my team to go get for me. Like, where's the solution brief on what we've optimized for retail? Where is the solution brief for what we've optimized as a use case in the AI sphere for pharmaceuticals? And we've done the work, right? Because we've got 500 AI models that are now being optimized for Intel hardware, whether it be on a PC, whether it be on a server. And we're just not yet, I think, projecting that through a lens that is going to be easily understood by these poor people that are being bombarded by everyone in this space.
Yeah.
And that comes down to persona as well. I mean, who are we really trying to target with this? And I was sitting in I think it was one of your roundtables actually, with some other CMOs. And they asked a very frank question: what are you doing to use AI internally? And I floated the answer, well, I'm waiting to see what lands in Marketo. All right.
Yeah.
So that's one audience.
Yeah.
In other words, you've got to promote what you can do to the ISVs. In other words, people won't invest in their own development, won't invest in it. They'll just expect Salesforce to deliver it, Marketo to deliver it.
Yeah.
They are. So that is one piece of marketing we have to do, definitely. And the others is for those who are going to invest in developers and data scientists and infrastructure, how are you talking to that space? And that's very different to what you do to an IT decision maker.
Yeah.
How do you embrace a developer, get them excited like they are around other competing technology? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit more about that in terms of the partner ecosystem, because obviously Intel is an ingredient brand. The market's shifted. So, how is the role of Intel's brand changing within that larger partner ecosystem in today's market?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's obviously a lot of research that Intel continues to do around its brand, right? What are the attributes that it's known for? What are the attributes that we want it to be known for? And we obviously just want to be known as the brand that is delivering quality, innovative, best in class. You want to be top of that heap, right? We've seen our brand go from top 5 now to number 24, right, in the Interbrand top 25. I don't mind being public about that, because my belief is that we can start to creep back up, all right? But how do you do that? And for me, it's the storytelling around the Intel value that we deliver, right? Pat's vision is to open up our manufacturing capability to anyone, right? Previously, it was just the Intel products that came out of our factories. And now we're announcing deals that AWS will generate some custom silicon coming out of the factory. That's part of the value of now the new Intel, all right? We are the silicon engineer expertise that can help anyone. So that's one part of a new story for us to tell. The other one too is just when we were growing as a brand, it was just the PC, right? People my age remember it from the PC experience.
Yeah.
Now it has to stretch to what's the developer experience with an Intel software stack? What's the engineer, the data center operator experience with a low power device, because that's what Intel's now focused on, price performance per watt. It's not always about, again, the speed of the device. It's about how much energy it consumes. So for me, we have to actually start to educate the various audiences that now see value in the many things that we do, as opposed to everything just stuck on that CPU. Yeah. And the golden arch of the narrative that runs across all of those. Because I firmly believe the way that we re-educate the entire market about the value of Intel is that we have to get people inspired and excited about how it helps them in their role or their home or their data center or their business. That's how we get it,
And that's the
brand
realistic,
lifted.
the realistic approach, not the hype and all the noise.
That's it,
right?
Exactly. I mean, for me, the hype and the noise is what Pat does so well. We're fighting the laws of physics to generate products that are second to none.
Yeah.
Right. So his vision of the 5 nodes in 4 years, in other words, 5 generations of product coming out of the factory in 4 years, that's an incredibly accelerated timeline, where at the end of it, and the site is very near, in 25, we will have chips no one can beat. And that's what Intel enjoyed in the 90s. And we're back there. So as a marketing team, I go, that is awesome. We are now the undisputed market leader in how small a transistor can be on a piece of silicon. All right? Undisputed leader. And that is something that I feel is our team's responsibility to go loud on.
Yeah.
There's no one better in this business than us.
You mentioned AWS. I want to ask you about hyperscalers.
Sure.
In terms of, what have you or Intel have learned about how working with the hyperscalers like AWS, Google, Microsoft, how's that changed, and how are you kind of adapting to that new reality? Obviously, there was that AWS announcement. What are you seeing across working with, marketing with hyperscalers?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And again, I just think hyperscalers as an industry is going through its own evolutions. When it first appeared in market, it was just simply the ability for a customer to outsource its data center, real estate, hardware, software stacks, and pay a subscription service for it. Yeah. So, and it was a very simple, clean model. But then when competition grows in that model, then they need to start differentiating themselves, right? Are they the cheapest? Are they the greenest? Are they the most fastest? And they need to differentiate themselves against each other. And so I sort of feel the relationship that Intel has with them is no longer just as through our partners, the provider of a standard piece of compute that would go into their data center that they wrap their services around, whether it's software services, hardware services, people services. They are now wanting to differentiate themselves so much that they want different silicon in the room, right? They don't want the standard product off the shelf. We know the workloads we run, we know how we want to manage them, and we need silicon that is aligned to our business, not general, yeah? And I feel that was a fundamental shift that we as Intel have made, a really positive one. And again, this is where you have to leave ego out of the room, where Intel was very used to, this is the best server CPU, and you should just deploy it regardless of type of user. And we are now entertaining those discussions where let's go co-develop a CPU just for you. You can't do that at scale, right? We won't do it for hundreds and thousands of customers. You have to do it for very select businesses where it's a great opportunity for them, but also us. And that's why hyperscalers definitely are the right opportunity for us. Now, when you come to the marketing side, I think our biggest hurdle was trying to apply what we do with a Dell to an Amazon, all right? Or applying what we do with a HP to a Google. And you can't run marketing with a cloud service provider like you do trying to drive retail at Best Buy. Okay? And so we'd pump dollars into the relationship, but apply our old programs, the OEM programs, the retail programs, into a model where it just did not work. And I think that's where we really struggled. So yes, we'd sponsor the events, we'd rock up at them, and they'd draw down on their MDF. But I feel we're now re-looking at how we not just expect them to market to their customers to drive consumption of an Intel-based device in their service, but how are we marketing to the end users that place the orders on Amazon, right? How do you understand what's running in a cloud service provider as a type of compute? Have we optimized for a Xeon architecture? Is it running on a custom piece of silicon that Intel and Amazon co-designed? If you understand what they're running, then help them grow their business.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the premise of all our MDF programs. We want Lenovo to be successful. Here's some investments to make it good for you, good for us. Same with Dell, HP, Lenovo. I think we have to start working around the cloud service provider and convince them when you place your order with Amazon, you should be asking for an Intel-based solution. Why? Because we've done the work to tune. You get better performance, better energy use, all of that sort of stuff. Reduce your costs if you're deploying us versus others. As opposed to just throwing money at the cloud service provider to go promote to it, which they don't want to do.
So gone are the days just putting an Intel logo on the program.
Yeah.
Intel inside, but you gotta take a storytelling approach to the end user now.
Totally.
With the CSP and
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And look, they're very. I had a meeting with the CMO of AWS of Amazon, obviously, and the same with Google, the same with Microsoft. I mean, they're the ones who are in the driving seat, right, of the relationship on this one. And you do, as Intel, you have to sort of step back and go, all right, what's best for our end customer, and also what's best for them. And so redesign your program. Yeah, and that's what we're currently doing.
Yeah, so sounds like you have a couple different partner strategies depending on the partnership, right?
Yeah.
'Cause the way you approach a partnership with AWS might be completely different than you're working with a number of other. Well, then you got the big OEMs, but I mean, Intel has thousands of partners.
It does, and in a world where you're needing to be focused and not diffuse in your effort. I mean, to your point, if you're trying to tell a brand story, without getting the benefit of a huge cash injection that's temporary from the board or from Pat, go reestablish the brand for us. So if you're trying to reestablish a story around Intel, you have to really look at the stories that are being told. And 2/3 of the money that marketing spends is through partners, right? And so we really have to start limiting or restricting the types of stories that are being told with the Intel investments that are being made, whether it's direct or whether it's indirect through partners, and make sure that they're representing the brand as you now need it to be, as opposed to a sticker on a device or the placement of a badge within a digital tile.
Yeah.
Right? You really have to be very, very mindful and deliberate about the purpose of these dollars and the expectations on those who are spending it on your behalf. Luckily, like I said before, a lot of these partners are in the same boat. They're trying to be more competitive. They're trying to be more resource mindful. We're all in the same boat, right, as a marketing community. And now is the right time to look at what we used to do, not throw it all away, but what would be better for both of us, results-oriented, few big bets as opposed to hundreds and thousands of small ones. I'm really excited by it all, to be quite honest. It's great timing for what we want to go do, but also the appetite is there to start focus on things and get some real stuff done.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's fascinating as you take this new approach internally. You're not having to combat the partners at the same time. It sounds like they're coming with you on this journey.
Yeah, they're hungry for it, in actual fact. I mean, I sometimes go into my first meetings, because I only joined Intel in February, and I'm the new guy on the block, and then I go in there, there's a new CMO at Dell, there's a new CMO at HPI. There's newness everywhere, which is good and bad, right? But for me, it's all been great, because we're all learning together and how we want to make a difference for all of our companies, and I said before, I'm trying to stretch the aperture into the other partnerships that we should invest in. It can't all just be, in our traditional big relationships. What are we doing for key ISVs? What are we doing with key SIs? And make them part of the priority list as opposed to the adjacency. You've been starving some of these investments because they're running on the year-on-year and maybe a percentage drop. If we're in a resource-constrained environment, no, we should prioritize that. Firewall those dollars. Or if it's a new investment, feel comfortable to go do it if it adds to a result that we're looking for across the board.
And it sounds like that oftentimes is the starting point. What is the result that we're going after?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it can't just be preference shift. dollars. It all comes down to shipments.
Well, I think that's just been a big change, in the marketing industry the last couple of years. It's just this shift to commercial-oriented goals.
Yeah.
Right. And I had Richard O'Connor on. He's the CEO of B2B Marketing, and he was saying CMOs really need to put the commercial hat on and be commercially focused.
Yeah, and I think, coming from a software, like when I was at McAfee and then Trellix and also at Tipco Software, it was all about the pipeline. What percentage of the pipeline did marketing generate this quarter, this month? What percentage of the pipeline actually converted to a sale? I mean, those to me were just 101 demand gen motions, metrics, systems, processes. I walk into this environment where the only billings relationships we have are with those we sell chips to. Yeah? And that's hard, right? Because I don't have real-time data available to me of what got sold beyond that transaction. So that is what, not not struggling with because we're solving the problems, but it's a focus of ours. If we're trying to move the needle and support those reps inside Intel that have the responsibility of walking into a big enterprise customer, are you going to do a desktop or laptop refresh this year? What projects have you got running in the data center? What is your cloud migration strategy? In other words, where are all the opportunities for an Intel consumption to take place? And I sort of, make it my charter now, whereas here in our marketing efforts to make the consumption reps productive. Yeah. As a microcosm that I can manage through the traditional CRM systems. What percentage of all the opportunity that the reps are working on came because marketing did the intent-based analysis and did the marketing qualified opportunity, all of that traditional goodness that really just did not exist here. Yeah.
So you must have a really close relationship with sales then.
Yeah,
to make that
it's
possible,
getting better.
right?
It's getting better because again, when you don't have it and you're trying to build it from scratch, which I've done a number of times before in my career, luckily, it takes time. It takes time. And the appetite between a divided by region selling force is real, right?
Yeah.
Is EMEA as interested as the North America team or the Latin America team? It's a multifaceted conversation. And on the back of that, we're in a world where we're hashtagging marketing's contribution as a comment in sales. We weren't even using campaign objects in Salesforce, right? Things I would just expect, but no. So it's not only the infrastructure, like bring in 6 cents because it got retired because no one was using it 3 years ago. So all right, we'll bring it back and we'll use it. Institute proper systems diligence as a good, healthy B2B demand engine should.
Yeah.
And, back the sales guys and girls as much as possible. Yeah.
So I want to end asking about the competitive landscape.
Sure.
Obviously, it's top of mind for a lot of people out there. So, just thinking about brand expectations, what is Intel's counterpunch to the AI narrative out there?
We're definitely here with the right products for now. Now, when we say brand counterpunch, I really feel that's what we were doing in 2024. Intel is here, we're AI everywhere. And we're trying to be the challenger mindset because AI in people's minds had been very heavily set. It has to be a GPU and it has to be in a public cloud infrastructure because that's where all of the compute was made available. It was also that, again, and it's the evolution of AI, right? The hype cycle of AI. All of the focus were on these massive data server farms running thousands of GPUs to train models, right? So for us, the brand counterpunch is, that is something that very few people will do. You don't need to do that. Right? That training has been done by the Metas of the world, by whoever of the world. There are people who have done it for your industry. What you now need for your call center rep is an AI PC that's got a local language model to allow them to talk to it and get an answer for a customer in a matter of seconds as opposed to you trawling through portals to go find the answer for them. Right? So again, we're here for the right reason.
Yeah.
That to me is the counterpunch that we need to land and land well. I don't think we're there yet, in all honesty. There's still a lot of noise around the big, but I feel, and this is what I love about Justin, who heads our data center roadmap. And again, silicon evolves over a number of years, not next quarter. You'll deliver the hit product that everyone's looking for. He said we need to move our engineering to where the puck will be or where the demand will be, and it's not on training, right? The demand and the shift of investment will be on inference, all right? Model's been trained by someone else, it's open source, great stuff. Now I'll apply it to my enterprise data because I don't want my enterprise data to go in the cloud and be used for training others, right? Or leaked. And the compute requirement there is so different to what people are investing in now. So in a few years' time, the very compute nature around AI is fundamentally going to shift. We'll have amazing product. And I think my job with the team during this shift, how are we finding those customers that go prove the model as it's going to be in 3 years' time, as opposed to where we're all being very noisy about now, right?
Well, I can see it. I mean, obviously, I know a lot of people in the business world, but I'm also working with marketers at all these tech companies are putting AI messages out there. When I ask them, how are you using AI?
Yeah.
Don't get a lot of good answers.
No, because there aren't many.
They're not. So, I see a lot of it as hype in the sense that a lot of it's not happening today and impacting the average business person out there.
That's it.
It's just not.
It's not. And I think, again, the industry fuels itself in a typical boom cycle where the cloud service providers are betting on this compute being used. And so they're stocking up their data centers with compute, making it very unavailable to anyone else, you know what I mean? So that's why there are such supply chain constraints on this compute. It takes months to get a CPU into your data center if you want to own it versus someone else. So it's just such a market where I think the developers need to know how they can go do it by themselves. They can do it for free. Like we've got our own data center that a developer can now get access to accelerators to run training on if they want to go do big training. Reach out and be real, right? If you want to go develop this for your gaming enthusiast, right? I think there's a huge opportunity on the consumer realm around consumer experiences around AI, yeah? But that's a very PC-oriented experience. So I love that side because that's very different to where all the eyes are fixated, right? And like we're talking about before, what are those real business use cases where we can prove today has value? And it is. I mean, it's in that Gen AI space. We're experimenting ourselves with coming into Intel.com. There are 20 million people that come to that site a month. Wouldn't it be great just to say, what's the latest driver for this, as opposed to click, 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 right? So I mean, I think there are really good benefits, and we want to be early adopters of that and get it out. So I think you'll see that from us in a couple of quarters. You'll have that ability. But then there's also, I think, you don't want to be the harbinger of fear, right? And go out, all this stuff in the cloud, it's insecure. But, if 80% of the enterprise data that would make AI interesting, in other words, it's specific to you, it's specific to your customers, as opposed to what broad models have been trained on, that sits in your infrastructure. So paint the picture where, well, if it's in your infrastructure, why would you duplicate that in a second place? Yeah. Right? Just run it on-prem, right? And that's contrary. Everything moves to the cloud. I'm actually a proponent. Well, why not do your first experiments with AI on-prem, right? On infrastructure that you already know and you love. You don't need to go buy the big GPUs necessarily. That's the other thing. I mean, AI doesn't have to run on a GPU. It can run on an NPU. It can run on a CPU quite happily, depending on the use case. Yeah. All right. So I'm actually excited by it, but you have to pick the segment you want to play to with the best product truth, the best value prop, and just go run with that and be happy with that. And that's an argument internal that I'll have to go. We're going to play in a few spaces where we know we're going to get great value and customers that will want to talk publicly about it, which will be a counterpunch to people who are investing with no results.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting in the sense that, you have your eye in the future and where this is all going, but from a marketing perspective, you're helping people with the reality of today.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've got the luxury of the silicon roadmap, so we can project in 3 years, in 5 years, where the future is going to be for us as a company and therefore the industry. I think what makes it so exciting being back in silicon is that silicon is a foundation on which anything can be built. Right? I love that. The same factories and engineers that gave us a PC in the 90s, and then gave us Wi-Fi connected, devices, and then gave us the ability to stream into our homes. And this is all on the backbone of the same, not the same technology, but the same core manufacturing capability. I just love it, because Intel is very unique in that we can flex where the market goes. We can predict where the market goes. Yes, we've made some missteps, right, in the past, and Pat's very clear about that. We didn't guess right. We maybe missed that opportunity because we just didn't embrace it. We didn't see that was where the world was moving. Or we were too egotistical and wanted to make us the center of the world by product as opposed to capability. Mm-hmm. That's why I love his vision of opening up our factories to others. Yeah. Let them decide where the future of the industry is going, right? We're not the only voice in the ecosystem. I love that. I love that possibility for the company.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. So I would just want to end by asking, what advice do you have for people out there? And that could be anything.
You always want to be really, you always want to leave something that's really exciting. I think a couple of things. Always carve out time in the week or time in the day just to step away from things. I've got the mind, the Calm app. I'll fire that up just to calm myself or context switch. I think, we go now from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, and you just context with no gaps. Yeah. Like I can have 18 meetings in a day with a half-hour lunch. That's not a healthy environment. So always look after you and your mental health, number one. I think the second piece is, and this is just a marketer, don't get depressed about our industry. And maybe that's my age that comes out. Like I watch TV ads and I go, oh my gosh. Like,
so is that tech or B2B marketing?
I think it's just general marketing. I just look at us sometimes and I go, come on, like tone it down. Like you're using stock video and throwing the same words that everyone is. So it's both an ask. Please, please, please don't lose the creativity as an industry. We've driven ourselves so hard right into growth that sometimes I feel the creativity we're starting to lose. Yeah. Brands that look the same, products that look the same. Please, please, please continue to invest in creativity. And so we can be really excited about what marketing does as opposed to what it churns out.
Well, I think that's why a lot of us got into it in the first place.
Well, true,
right? And then get beaten down by the metrics and the KPIs.
Well, that's it. And it's a different type of skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had this discussion with some people inside. I'm lucky in that I've been exposed to both worlds. I love the piano, right? I love creativity, arts, all that type of stuff. But I am also operationally minded. But sometimes I realize that I've just been so operationally focused that I lost as a leader. You need to focus on the message. It's not creative enough. It's not impactful enough. Ads might look beautiful, but they don't mean anything. Don't lose sight of that, because ultimately it's the creativity that will make whatever you do more compelling, more impactful.
I love it. I think anytime we can leave room in the schedule to just reflect, think, take some of the noise away. We've just been bombarded every single minute from every source.
And here's a podcast that's doing like a little bit of more of the noise, but maybe it's the distraction.
If you want the noise, listen on the road, right?
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate talking to you today.
Well, Brett, this was wonderful. I just want to say thank you for coming on and cheers.
Yeah. Cheers with the Intel mug. There you go.
Thanks,
appreciate
Brett.
it.